Germany's foreign minister has postponed a trip to China after Beijing reportedly planned only one relevant meeting for him. Johann Wadephul had been due to visit next week, but according to the German Foreign Office, the only confirmed talks were with Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Berlin says the trip will take place at a later date. German-Chinese relations have recently come under pressure, including over Chinese export limits on rare earths. For more on this, we are joined by our chief international editor, Richard Walker. Richard, this trip has been cancelled at short notice because the Chinese offered Wadephul, quote, too few appointments. What's the background here?
Yeah, I mean, Gerhard, this is really quite an extraordinary situation. I mean, of course, the foreign ministry, they are saying, you know, we're rescheduling this, we're postponing this is not cancelled. But this is not a matter of kind of picking up the phone and calling your airline and saying, oh, I'd like to change my flights. You know, this is a major logistical operation to get a foreign minister to visit a major country like China. It's not just the minister's team, all of those diplomats who are kind of on the plane. You also have a business delegation which was going to fly with this on this trip, also civil society representatives, a bunch of journalists, you have security people, you know, our own Giulia Saudelli was all ready with her visa and her technical equipment for this. A lot of people are all set for this flight and for this trip, and then suddenly to pull the plug on that. So this is very unusual. The only time this has happened to me was really during the pandemic, Gerhard. So the big question is why? So we're hearing that only one meeting got confirmed with Johann Wadephul, with his direct counterpart, that's Wang Yi, that's the foreign minister. But we were also hearing in the run-up to this preparation that the Chinese had been quite difficult about arranging appointments. So it could be that the Chinese are trying to send a signal to Wadephul that they're unhappy with critical comments that he's been making about security in the South China Sea and the Taiwan Strait. That is one possibility. But you mentioned it at the beginning, really the bigger acute crisis in the relationship right now is about these advanced raw materials, rare earths, which are really in the spotlight right now.
Now, you mentioned the business delegation that was supposed to go with Wadephul to China. I doubt that they're happy about this. What are the issues here?
Yeah, well, I think really, so there are kind of two aspects of this ongoing trade war, which is really between the US and between the United States and China. But Europe is getting really drawn into it. And part of it is about these rare earths, so these essential raw materials that you need for a lot of modern manufacturing, that China has been really clamping down on exports of those as part of its trade war with the United States. And Europe is seeing itself as a kind of collateral damage. Now there's a new row that has also erupted in recent days about a Chinese semiconductor manufacturer that's based in the Netherlands, with the Netherlands taking action against the Chinese and the Chinese taking action against the Europeans. This has really blown up in recent days, and this is something that puts German car manufacturers at risk, for instance. So I think the overall picture is that this relationship is in a lot of trouble right now, and this is just the latest evidence of that.
Now, one could also say that Germany and China are not really on the same page with regard to the war in Ukraine. Do you think that Germany could pressure China to put pressure on Putin?
I mean, Germany has been trying this ever since the war in Ukraine began, really. So the previous government was constantly saying that we call on the Chinese to use their influence with Vladimir Putin to get him to stop the war. The Chinese, of course, always say, this is not our war, we're not part of it. But what the West and what the Europeans and what the Germans observed in recent years is actually that Chinese support for Russia, whether it's in terms of providing so-called dual-use goods that can be used to support their military effort. Also, the deepening business and energy relationship between China and Russia has only deepened during the period of this war. So there's a growing sense within Europe that China is wrong when it says it doesn't support this war by Russia against Ukraine, that actually its support is pretty strong. You will certainly be getting more of this from this government, the new government that's been in since the beginning of the year, calling on China to change its mind on this war. But if you talk to them behind the scenes, they don't seem to really expect that China is very likely to change its mind.
Our chief international editor, Richard Walker, there. Thank you, Richard.